Uh, hmm? I see him, but there's a. Oh, wow. I can see him. Are we good? Good to go? Okay, cool. Hi, Zoo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, beautiful.
loud and clear.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Sarah.
Nice to
Um,
meet you.
you too. Where are you joining us from?
I'm now in Rio de Catorce, Mexico. It's in the mountain in Mexico. I'm making my second feature here. I already spent a year living here, and we're about to head into this maybe 6 weeks of production, maybe in 10 days. See, very soon.
Wow. Um, so this is I assume then a big part of your process, it seems like, right? To like go somewhere and put yourself very deeply in that community and environment, or that's what it seems like here with this beautiful film, by the way. I love it.
Thank you very
Do
much.
you want to tell us a little bit about how it developed, or like how did you come to be interested in this location? Like how did
Mhm.
you come to go live there? I assume it was because you wanted to make a project, but just maybe a little bit about how it developed.
See, of course, I would love to share that process because, as you said, for me, it's always very important for me to first to leave the film, to be part of the community, and then I observe, I connect, and maybe I write something. Like during that process, the thing slowly grows. And same as this one in Mexico, but because of the language difference, that I cannot communicate perfectly in Spanish. So the one I'm making in Mexico is a little bit different than Parkland because Parkland I basically made it by myself. It's kind of like a one-man band jazzing the frame. But now I have maybe a small team. But going back to Parkland, so how I find about that place? Actually, I find out that place exactly the same way as the couple influencer in the beginning. No, they look for this place on this Chinese social, it's kind of like a Chinese Instagram. So they have like a different abandoned places posted on the website. So also that's my way to find out that place. But before going there, I thought this is just some normal abandoned place that which nobody living there know is abandoned for so long. But the first time when I go there, the first impression, it actually shocked me so much because there are so many people, different people, they are doing different things simultaneously in that same park. And also when I went there, it's like the summertime. The animals are very relevant. Also like so many plants. There's so many energy and life going on around that place. And but the first time when I went there, I'm still exploring. I'm not sure if I can really live in that place. Also, if I can make a film there. So after the first encounter with Parkland, I actually went on like a road trip around China, maybe for less than 2 months, trying to also search for similar places because back then during COVID, there was like a big, like constant news going on about people living in abandoned buildings or there's a house that's unfinished, people are fighting for their rights. There's so many news like that. So by that time, I'm very interested in those alternative lifestyle of people who live in those the ruins or in the abundance. And so I went on this road trip for 2 months, trying to connect with different places, different people with similar like living situations. But for different reasons, I start shooting, or but I cannot continue, or for some reasons I cannot shoot, I cannot start shooting. So during after this 2 months of exploration, I the first place I went is Parkland, and which always leave a like huge impression on me. I said, oh no, this is a place that I have to go back to make a film there. And if you really want to make film, that I have to live in the same space with the actor, with the all the characters in that space. I cannot like say I live in maybe in the hotel and then come to shoot them every day. No, because that couldn't work. So that's basically how I find out the place and decided to live there and stay there for around 10 months to finish Parkland.
And so while you're living there, uh, I guess, is that when you went in, did you know that you were going to try to make this kind of like, did you go there thinking, oh, I'm going to make a fiction or I'm going to make a documentary? Or are you already interested in like mixing and melding forms and creating this hybrid, this like
Uh,
really sort of interesting hybrid?
See, I feel like I have this general idea of to make it to be a docufiction because for me, I have the ultimate respect for those really pure documentary filmmakers. No, they don't manipulate anything, they don't invent anything. They just follow, they just wait patiently and let life inspire them. And for me, it's very hard for me because sometimes making that kind of documentary would take maybe 3 or 4 years because nothing happened. You have to be very patient. And I think for me, like I really need to sort of have some control around the things that I'm making, even though for Parkland, the process is very unique because it's constantly shift from intuition and logic. Because, when I go shoot them, I cannot predict anything. I'm just basically documenting them and capturing the footages. But afterwards, I will come back with the footage and start editing because this film actually come together in Premiere. So I didn't write anything, but I write while editing. So I actually, as soon as I finish shooting, basically the editing is also done. So it's constantly like process. I shoot something very intuitively. I come back and put it together. See, oh, maybe I missed this or I missed that, and so I'll go out and reshoot again. Because the thing for me is always the most important is that I need to have sort of infinite time with the actors and with the location. Because for industrial, for a traditional process, that is very hard for young filmmakers to have that resources and money to book the actors and space for so long. But for me, it's like sort of like the foundation for my process to work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say, because I feel like it's also hard for young filmmakers to have these instincts developed already, or that I feel like that's something that we all keep working for many years, decades, right, on like
Mhm,
this ability to follow your instincts or to like be able to have that kind of trust while you're shooting or while you're working in
mhm.
this with this level of uncertainty, which seems like something that you are like really able to embrace. Is that
Exa-
something that like felt difficult for you like during the process? Do you feel like it built over time over those 10 months or
mhm.
yeah, how do you feel about instincts, your own
See,
instincts, I guess?
talking about instincts, actually very funny because I'm a very big admirer of Meissner, which is like a really famous acting coach. And during in the book of Meissner, she mentioned one thing, talking about instincts, very interesting, because he said actually every person in the world, we have the same amount of talents. No, because when we talk about someone is so talented, what is talent when we talk about? But Meissner said we all have the same amount of talent, but those people who can more consciously follow their instincts maybe can show more talent instead of have more talents. And so the instinct part is very interesting because for me, also making Parkland is actually kind of very big step for me in terms of my process because all the films I made before, all the short films I made before Parkland, kind of following like a traditional process. I read the script, I cast, and there's a crew helping to make that film. But I also feel that limitation in that process. So I also know because I'm also a big admirer of Cassavetes because for Cassavetes it's all about you have the actors and maybe you don't have a story, you have this uncertainty, and then you go into it. Maybe you have a script and the characters they embody the script, and then you throw away the script, so you improvise and then start rewriting the script. So it kind of that process, and which I'm really interested in. But also that process because it's very different when you work with professional actors and work with non-professional actors, and because but we all embrace this uncertainty because also for me going to make Parkland, I'm also very afraid because I don't know what I'm gonna make because it's very different than what I'm done before. What I've done before, I have very solid idea or concrete going into that project, and but also because I feel it takes some time to really to welcome the first to create uncertainty and welcome uncertainty and then to embrace uncertainty into the process. I feel it also takes me kind of like maybe 2 to 3 months to really figure out what Parkland is about. But I'm very lucky because Actually, one of the first footage that I captured in the whole film is this guy called Lao Jia explaining this analogy between the digital world and the spiritual world. That's actually one of the first footage I captured, and that really hit me. I said, "Wow!" Because also living in Parkland, that I experience every day, this interruption of internet it's gone bad, or like also about the accident of death. It's also kind of like a relevant topic among the people there. They all have different memories about who have accident there, who maybe passed away there. They all have different memories about that. And so like it really like my life experience and connected to what this guy called Lao Jia said about this analogy between digital and spiritual world. And really hit me. I think and then maybe after 2 months, I said, oh, maybe that could be a through line of the film to link everything together. Because also for Parkland, actually I feel for Parkland, the space is actually maybe a more important character than all the characters. Because I choose different characters because they both experience a different history of Parkland. They live in this place for a different period of time, and together they weave together this memory of this whole space. And also because part of the logic in editing is also trying to hide and reveal the space as the film progresses. And have I gone a lot off topic? What's the question about? I forgot.
No, you did answer, but then you added a lot of interesting detail. We started out with instincts, but I think like going back to just talking about the editing, like what you said, how you wrote it in the edit. I mean, that is such a like to me, that's like very hardcore documentary process, right? Like the writing occurs in the edit. So it's interesting, like even though you know it's also has all this fiction, like I feel like you did really construct it like as a documentarian would. Let's see if there's any folks out there with questions before I just keep babbling at you. Anyone have? Yes, I think Lauritz is going to bring you a mic.
There you go. Hi, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the film.
Thank you so much.
I have a quick question about if you can talk about the process of your sound design and how you feel that it relates to the rest of the film. To me, I thought you did a really good job balancing natural sound and field recordings, probably direct recording, with maybe some pushing it without it ever feeling overtly musical. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the relationship of the sounds to the rest of the film, to the images.
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. See, so I work my sound designer that we already have become pretty good friends before making this film together. And actually, my sound designer came in sort of like in a relatively later stage. After I already shot the film, I have like first cut. I say, let's work on the film, the sound part together. And I think the basic logic behind the sound is actually in the title. The title is called Parkland of Decay and Fantasy. So there's this fantasy part, which is very lighthearted, like childish even. Like and there's also this very dark, like a decay side. No, so also because that's the basic logic that we play with the sound here. Because also I trust my sound designer so much, and he himself put a lot of his personality into the sound designer because my sound designer is also a very couldn't say naive, but very childish, have that child inside him, very protective, very well. And I trust him very well about designing this film. We talk about the logic, and I just let him do it. And he actually, the only thing that I wish I can do better is that I wish I can invite my sound designer to come to Parkland, actually to leave someday, maybe 3 or 4 days, to actually experience that space. And maybe we can, but this next time, well, what I can improve on, because also making Parkland about the money, about everything, so I cannot make it happen. But I feel like there's something that I want to improve on in the future, to have to incorporate the sound designer in a more early stage. See.
Other questions? Oh, Louisa's got the mic.
Hi. I was curious about how you chose to include yourself in the film. Like, what made you make that decision?
Well, what do I make? Because because for me, my one of my questions for cinema, as always, is like when I'm watching a film, I'm questioning. So who is behind the camera? Who is shooting? No, I feel like for me, always instead of pretending that no one is shooting behind the camera, I always want to give that personality to the camera. Also, give a personality to the person shooting behind the camera. And so, also part of the logic in editing the structure of Parkland is also my involvement of me slowly progress through the film. Because also I also see myself as two positions in the film. I'm the director of the whole film, but I'm also as actor, which act as this filmmaker who trying to make a documentary, who trying to figure out if there's like a paranormal activity or someone that would like this is my main focus. And the first time when you see me asking a question, like initially not only interact but ask a question, is that when I asked this guy Xiaojia, did you see any paranormal activity when you are working here? Anything? And from there, my involvement started to grow a little bit more. Because for example, in the film, in the beginning, that we only see the TikTok influencer in a like screenshot. The camera doesn't even exist, so I doesn't even exist. No, so like that slowly progress until finally when I appear in the film from behind the camera. So it's also part of the logic. Also, I feel it's also part of the logic in this film I'm making in Mexico right now. If it's gonna be a different structure, because I feel like Parkland is more like a documentary that intends to be a fiction. But I feel this film I'm making in Mexico right now is a fiction, but more intends to be a documentary, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my favorite moment, I think, in this film is towards the end, where you break so you've got this like really expressive sort of like montage of different footage, I think, from that feels familiar from earlier in the movie, but like you're doing that like low frame rate, slow shutter, sort of like very streaky, very like monochromatic, like super expressive abstraction. And it's so beautiful, and it's also like something that like is easy to get sucked into, also with the soundscape that's happening at the same time. And then you just do that like really hard break to your premiere timeline, which I really think is a really nice way to like just constantly keep reminding us, or constantly keep us, I guess, on our toes, right, as far as like thinking about what kind of thing we're watching, what kind of people are making it, like what kind of people are in it. Are they actors? Are they, are they collaborators? Do you think of the people as collaborators? Actually, that's something else I was interested in.
Yes, I feel definitely, because I feel for me always the writing begins when you have the actors involved. Like of course, like the first stage of writing, you need to put all your imagination to put everything on the paper. But I feel the real writing process is when the actors are locked and you're starting to adjust the stories based on how they really live and what is their personality. And especially for non-professional actors, because I feel like when you're working with non-professional actors, even though you are making a fiction, but the nature is always docu-fiction, because you have to learn from their own life. You have to connect with them, build that trust, and maybe shoot some documentary to have them very comfortable with this working relationship, like everything. I feel,
Yeah. And there's also that, kind of inescapable fact that even when you think you're making a very straight fictional film, you're also like making a documentary of the making of that film, right? Like as you go. Maybe we have time for one more question, if there's anybody out there with one more. Yes, great.
Hi. So it's obvious that the edit has a lot. It impacts the film a lot, and it is clear that you put a lot into this. And there's very much of the avant-garde collage elements of this that help to maintain the balance between old and new, past and present, and this kind of tension between technology and spiritualism that you mentioned before. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what inspired you to pull different elements into this and how you chose to edit them together. Because for me, that's what really sets this film apart from so many others.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. Actually, I always have a mental form about the process of making Parkland, because I see this film as a very weirdly botanic garden. Because the garden is full of maybe very exotic plants, and each plant, the seed is maybe scattered around the world, and maybe each seed is very unique that is never been documented. So even though you gather a seed, you don't know what the seed is going to grow to be, And for me, every seed of the plant represents a cinematic language, specific cinematic language. And so in order to master one specific cinema language, you have to go to a different process to gather those seeds and collect them back to the garden. But in order also to really to take care of different seeds, you need different gardeners also. So there are different characters. But in the beginning, you have no idea the personality of this gardener A or this personality of this plant A, because you have no idea how it's going to be. So first, you just randomly match them together. Maybe, for example, this gardener A can take care of this plant A. But maybe after a month, you feel like, maybe their personality doesn't match. So you start to rearrange this pair. Maybe gardener A with plant B and this kind of things. But so also when I talk about Parkland, I feel the nature of Parkland is very intuitive, because it's like growing a seed, because you can now predict when it stops to grow. You can only give it water, give it sun, give it care, give it patience. As soon as it stops growing, that's maybe its final form, so it stopped growing. But what I can control is actually the overall layout of the whole garden, because I can say I can put this garden A and plant B by the entrance, and I can put the other one by somewhere else. So that the structure of the garden I can control, but each plant I cannot control, and each person I also cannot control totally. I can just observe how they live their life and trying to adjust to them. I feel like that's the whole process of creating Parkland, if that makes sense. See?
Yeah, that's a lovely metaphor too. I like the plants and the gardeners. I think we are out of time. I want to thank you again, Zhu, for joining us. And just to confirm, I think, is this the first time that the film has screened in the United States? Like, is this the first?
Actually, officially the first festival. It's screened in Red Cat in Los Angeles Theater before, but the first festival is Mainz. So thank you very much also for inviting
we're
Parkland.
very honored.
Of course.
Thank you so much for sharing it with us, and for joining us today. And thank you, Anel, for doing a great job with this.
Actually, before I go, can I just share something real quick?
Yeah.
Just real quick, because it's this idea about docufiction. There's also a beautiful metaphor about this genre, because there's a very one of my favorite Mexican filmmaker called Nicolas Prada. He actually also shoot a documentary before around this area, which I'm making this film in. And there's this guy who is like amateur anthropologist. This guy has been maybe living in the desert for maybe 20 years. So he started digging up this desert to finding like maybe a mammoth tools, like different technology, different like fossils all around like a different period in the history. So after 20 years, he built like a museum on his own. Like the museum exhibited in a chronological order, from the Big Bang, maybe the things he dig fossil in the desert, to the technology, maybe to cell phone he dig in the desert. But during the whole exhibition, in the middle of the exhibition, he planted one thing. It's called a fossil of an alien. So every audience, when they go through that museum, when they stop in the middle of the exhibition, they say, there's a fossil of alien. So they start questioning, is the owner of the museum trying to make a joke on us? Or has he really found the fossil of alien? And that the fossil of alien is the beauty of docufiction. That's the thing. I feel like every docufiction needs a fossil of alien that made the audience question, is the filmmaker making a joke for us? Or actually, my perception of the reality is actually limited. There may be so much more that outside my perception of the world. I feel that's the beauty of docufiction. Thanks. See.
Yeah, I agree completely. Thank you so much. And I look forward to watching your next project, the thing that you're working on now in Mexico.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Thanks for Mainz, and also for all the audience to take time to watch Parkland. Thank you very much. See you guys soon. Bye. Have a good day.